So now that I'm on beer 4, I want to talk about Jane Goodall, the anthropologist and primatologist.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
Ash has the afternoon off. Well, each week we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get out for respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
Gene, first off, I just want to say I am super excited to be back. I'm refreshed. I'm invigorated. My batteries have been recharged. Got to spend some time away in Brazil with Vanessa and her family. So thank you very much for holding down the fort. Ash, thank you very much, because without you guys here at the controls, keeping this this machine that we've built running, we would have had to stop. So thank you for making that time possible. And everybody out there, happy holidays. Glad to be back. And we're going back to watch one of the movies I first remember seeing for one of our great listeners, Kelly B., who wanted us to go back to 1981 and review the prehistorical comedy, Caveman.
And Kelly B. wrote in and said, hello, Shat hosts. Having listened to y'all review movies for years now, I have noticed a pattern emerging lately. I see a movie come up for review, get excited to hear you all loving some nostalgic movie from my childhood, only to have you crap all over it. And that's okay, because I agree to disagree, and I still love listening. But it had me wondering, what has put my favorite podcast hosts in this surly mood? Was it the stress of COVID? Or perhaps it was the comments on the shows? Or the number of serious dramas? Or too many Chevy Chase movies? Whatever the reason, I let it go until Robot Jocks. After that weird-ass Robo Jocks ranking, I realized perhaps y'all just need to get drunk or high and watch a really bad movie. Enter the movie Caveman. I don't recall the first time I watched this movie, but I do remember it's one of the only movies my older brother and I like to watch together. From the horrible stop-motion dinosaurs to the caveman language and slapstick jokes, the movie was hilarious. Now that I'm over 40, I tried watching it again and just could not laugh enough while cringing and rolling my eyes at the same time. I mean, it was the early 80s and not the most socially aware time in movies. That aside, I like the cast. I mean, how can you have one movie with a young, attractive Dennis Quaid, Ringo Starr, Shelley Long, Jack Gilford, and John Matuszak all wearing fur? Also, you just have to laugh at a movie that casts Ringo Starr as the hero opposite a very luscious Lana, who I believe was his wife at the time. Rock stars do get the girls. I have one suggestion, which I think will help you enjoy this cinematic rough gem. Shat crew, get drunk or do some drugs first, then watch this movie and just have fun. Wishing you a couple hours of turning off your brains, Kelly B.
Kelly, I wish that I was still doing drugs or still drinking right now, because this would have been the movie. I've been sober for a little bit and been off drugs for even longer. But I don't know that would have been a good idea, because I think this movie, High, would have made me question my own reality.
Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and crack one for you right now. If I can get the bottle open.
You can do it.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
To the first of many beers for this recording, Kelly, I have been pretty much drunk really since a few days before Christmas because I took the entire last week of work off. So I watched this movie in the right mindset, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with my review.
And Kelly B, I know we normally don't talk about like behind the scenes stuff, but just so you know, it is 9:30 in the morning in Arizona, and Gene is already drinking beers for you. That's how dedicated we are to your commission and to the podcast.
Well, Caveman is a 1981 slapstick comedy written and directed by Carl Gottlieb and starring Ringo Starr, Dennis Quaid, Shelley Long, and Barbara Bach. Roger Ebert, whoever that is, gave the film 1.5 stars out of a possible 4. The cast was interesting, he wrote, but the main failing of Caveman was it being a spoof with no popular original material for it to satirize. There has never been a really successful movie set in prehistoric times. Ebert and Gene Siskel both gave the film a negative "don't see it" review on their TV show, but they softened their criticism somewhat by noting that its dinosaur-related sequences were amusing. So, Big D, we always ask where you were the first time you saw the movie. What are your memories of Caveman?
So this one I can vividly remember, I mentioned it at the start, is that when my parents got HBO, it was probably 83, 84. This came on, and it was one of the funniest things I had ever seen in my life. And again, like Kelly B, I was young. I was 9 or 10 when I first saw it. And I just could not laugh any harder. My friends thought it was funny. The jokes, the setups. I kept thinking this is what like adult comedies would be like. I was like, I'm all in. I'm getting the humor. But today at 49, the same. I just found myself asking the question, how did this movie get made?
Now, Big D and I coming this from totally different angles because I'd never seen Caveman. I'd only heard of this movie in conversations about the Beatles. And when people would mention Ringo Starr was in this movie, I assume like they meant like many musicians who are famous. He would have a cameo in it. Like he was one of the cavemen in the background, or I imagined he showed up to show the cavemen how to drum in like a 30-second sequence. No, he is the star of this movie, which reinforces my belief that the 80s were fucking crazy when it came to movie ideas.
Well, I think it was any name they could get that would get people to the theater. But I agree also with what Roger Ebert had said, is that today we take it for granted. All these kids' movies like Ice Age, The Crods, Early Man, that bad Jack Black comedy, Year One, now it's become something that's more common. But back then, maybe the audience and the writers of this film didn't know how to use the material for something that would be funny.
Well, let's set our clocks back to 1 zillion BC, October 9th, and hit the trailer.
The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. Wet. And sloppy. Caveman. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs a leader. Will it be Tonda? He is strong. How about Gog? Gog is out of sight. And Atouk. Atouk sounds good. Atouk will be the leader of the Stone Age. He will teach man to walk erect. He will discover fire. He will invent roast chicken. And fried eggs. Sunny side up. He will inspire the men and zug-zug the women.
Atouk, Tala, zug-zug?
Yeah. Atouk, zug-zug, Lana.
He will protect them from all the beasts of the earth. Ringo Starr, Barbara Bach, Dennis Quaid, Shelley Long, John Matuszak, Avery Schreiber, and Jack Gilford. Caveman. They don't call it the Stone Age for nothing.
Atouk, played by Ringo Starr, is a bullied and scrawny caveman who lusts after the beautiful but shallow Lana, played by Barbara Bach, who is the maid of Tonda, played by John Matuszak. Their tribe's physically imposing, bullying leader and brutish instigator.
So, Gene, you wondered, how could Ringo Starr be the, no pun intended, the star of this film? I imagine that was the only way you get these other people to be in a film. You tell them, we're going to have an actual living Beatle. You're going to be in a movie. You're going to get Dennis Quaid. I know you have potential. Get out there. This will be your big break. You guys, it's going to be great. Let's get out there. And everybody on this set looks embarrassed. They must have felt like an idiot every single day on set. Because if you go by just the closed captioning of what the dialogue, it consists 90% of groans, caveman clamoring, caveman grunting, caveman screaming. That is basically the dialogue. And I know Ringo, he had been in a few of the Beatles movies like Hard Day's Night. So he thought, hey, I can act. But I don't know that this was maybe the big break to make him a serious actor, because it just did not work.
Speaking of breaks, I think you were broken by 4 seasons of Westworld where you had captioning on during Caveman. Like, I watch everything with captioning on. I watched Frozen for the first time 2 nights ago, and I had the captioning on because I wanted every lyric of every song. This is Caveman. There aren't words. Why the fuck would you have the captioning on?
That's true. That is true. It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe it's because I want to be accurate. I wanted to make sure I understood that maybe there was going to be some nuance. There was going to be something that could be taken that was below the surface that would give a deeper understanding to this film.
Well, I'm cracking open a second beer now for Kelly, and I'm going to get into this Dennis Quaid thing. There it is. That was a better one. Ringo Starr. Yes, not a great actor. I think we can all agree on that. But what made it even worse is when you look at a movie and you say, how is a guy supposed to pull off a movie that's all groans and caveman clamoring and caveman grunting and caveman screaming? It's Dennis Quaid. And they made a decision to make him the sidekick. Dennis Quaid is an actor who is so charismatic that him smiling and grunting and being incredible to look at. I mean, his body looks incredible in this movie. Yes, you can make a caveman movie with the things we described and make it engaging and make it sexy and make it endearing if the lead man is Dennis Quaid, not Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr, all you saw was these stringy legs, this gross beard, and those eyes bulging out, and his teeth were a little too white for a caveman and also a Brit. The whole situation was uncomfortable.
Well, you focus on the teeth, but not the hairless bodies and the lack of mud, and you didn't catch, and none of that bothered, just the white teeth.
The blonde guy, Dudu Kaka, who blows into the tube, he was sufficiently dirty. That guy looked like he just did not bathe.
Well, I thought that was an ethnic slight. That was a choice they made.
And speaking of ethnic slights, listen, I'm all for representation in films, but Atouk's crew, as we open the movie, there are a couple of cavemen. It seems like they're out in the deserts of Southern California. It looked more like a United Colors of Benetton ad than a tribe of cavemen. There's no reason that a tribe in prehistoric times should have that much genetic diversity. They're all different sizes. I think there were some Mexican cavemen. Yeah. One guy looked like he might be a Klingon. Nuta was clearly Asian. I don't understand how they're obtaining such a diverse gene pool while they're geographically isolated in the desert with only one child.
Well, again, maybe they were, traveling a little more than we expected. Really it makes no sense. But you had to have a diverse, because we also had an African-American caveman.
Because America existed.
Grog is elderly and disabled, so he checks 2 boxes. And then I was shocked. We had Flock and Rook, who had to be gay. They don't overtly say it. They just are making eyes at each other. Atouk notices and is like, oh, he just lets it go. There was no over-the-top gay humor about them spooning. So, yes, it's a diverse group.
Yeah, to Caveman's credit, they showed some restraint. In approaching these characters. Because, the first time I saw a black caveman, I was like, oh, God, where are we going to go with this? Is he going to show up and rob the tribe? Is he going to show up and, play them music, show them how to dance? They didn't touch any of that.
Yeah, he did not rap while they created their first musical beat. I thought he was either going to have a really long loincloth And there was going to be a joke where Lana sees that and she's like, Alana, Alana, Atouk. Or they were going to find some shiny rock and he was going to make like a necklace. But again, they didn't do that. But a place that this movie does go, which a lot of 80s movies went, Gene, you and I way back when did Revenge of the Nerds. And we could not believe that our beloved comedy about nerds going to college and, the underdog overcoming the big mean frat guys culminates with a rape. We didn't remember that Betty Childs is lured into the funhouse moon room by Lewis, who's disguised as Stan, her boyfriend with the Vader mask, and he lies. It's called legally, everyone out there, don't do it. It's called rape by deception. It's where you try to convince someone that you are their partner, have sex with them, and you're not. Oh, but it's a harmless prank. Lewis is just getting back at Stan by raping his girlfriend. And then Betty decides to just make this even worse, to compound the problem by saying, oh, nerds are so good. You're going to be my boyfriend. So we prepared for this moment, but it didn't really get me ready for Caveman attempted rape. Atouk, he drugs Lana. He spreads her leg. He climbs on top and tries to penetrate her right next to an also unconscious Tonda. When he fails, he then later with Lars goes back and tries to abduct her again a second time. And I understand the dominant male should be, you should get the most attractive mate. There was something cringeworthy about Ringo Starr on top of and trying to hump an unconscious Barbara Bach. This was fucking nuts, especially when he comes in his fur and wasn't expecting that.
And to clarify for the audience who hasn't seen this recently or ever, this isn't some poorly lit, implied attempted rape. It's a gag that goes on for several minutes. There's a couple fart jokes thrown in, various positions. First, he's going for the missionary. Then he goes for the prone bone. It's all over the place. I can only imagine what the environment was like on set for these women in 80s caveman movies. But in Atouk's defense, it was 1 zillion BC. Like, they didn't know what consent was.
Yes, I do understand that if this was like a more serious film, that back then the apex male would go and take the woman he wanted, but this was like an 80s feel-good, funny family movie with sunny side up pterodactyl eggs. I wasn't expecting major felonies.
What surprised me was that Atouk, who's supposed to be our protagonist, supposed to be our hero in this movie, he really seems like a villain. He seems like the worst guy in the tribe. He's as much a fucker, if not worse, than Tonda. Tonda, yeah, he throws dudes off a tree, but he's trying to escape a killer dinosaur. Yeah, he uses his woman as a fishing pole, but he's trying to eat. This guy is a survivor.
Yeah, Atouk is actively working against the tribe's best interests. He's conniving. He's the worst kind. He's hoarding food. He's tricking people into situations that might get them killed. He's holding them back. He should be the villain. He should be. And that goes back to, we could have Lar as the hero. He is the sidekick. He is the pratfalls, the jokes. He makes some discoveries. But in the end, Lar is the leader that will take this tribe to the next evolutionary ladder.
And as proof of the ability to have crossover talent, we're saying Ringo Starr, he's a musician, maybe acting isn't his thing. Tonda, played by an NFL star, we just saw him in Ice Pirates, and he's actually a decent comedic actor. He's still well cast in Caveman because he looks like a force of nature. He dwarves everyone else. He does his job in this movie. I think they actually could have got a lot more for him because we saw John Matuszak. He was great. And he might have been the strongest actor in the movie.
And he was surprisingly hairless. I was noticing that, his freshly shaved chest. They should have just given him 2 months' notice, let that grow, because I guarantee you he is much like you, a caveman in day-to-day life.
Well, during his playing days, though, he's in L.A., right?
Yes.
Raiders were in L.A. at the time?
Uh-huh. Los Angeles.
So, I mean, you can't have hair in L.A. It's not allowed.
Well, Christian Bale will lose like 90 pounds to get into a role. I would expect John to just let your chest go.
After being banished along with his friend Lar, played by Dennis Quaid, Atouk falls in with a band of assorted misfits, among them comely Tala, played by Shelley Long, and the elderly blind man Gog, played by Jack Gilford.
So this movie did not do well at the box office, and you're not really surprised. It was packaged and promoted as a romantic comedy, which I don't know how you do that, because as a kid, both Kelly B and I loved it. you make this maybe I think I like PG because you couldn't go G. Make this a true kids family comedy and you would have had like a hit on your hands. You got everything a kid wants. You got giant prehistoric bugs getting squished. There's slime and goo. You got goofy, googly-eyed dinosaurs. You got silly cavemen. You got some half-naked women. Nothing that would have pushed this to an R. So mom and dad could maybe enjoy some of the hard bodies we're seeing. You got some poo-poo jokes. You got the memorable caca doo-doo shit joke, which at the time was the funniest thing I had ever heard. But I keep going back to this point. As we're developing this film, Gene, we've got it green lit. We've got the studio behind us. And they're saying, all right, give me the elevator pitch. Give me, who is it? It's prehistoric. It's going to be a key pivotal moment in our development. Who is the audience? Because I can't picture adults in 81 laughing.
Yeah, there's no way this is for adults. I understand it was the 80s. I understand comedy hadn't fully evolved, especially in film. And I understand this is a slapstick comedy, so we have to put it into that genre. What I don't understand is why these actors, Dennis Quaid, even Ringo Starr, didn't say, no, this is a terrible idea. There were writers, professional writers, who sat down and said, okay, here's the gag. Lar is going to get thrown by a stegosaurus tail. He lands and his legs get twisted and he can't walk anymore. And then Atouk is going to go over and he's going to uncross his legs for him. And then we're going to insert like a creaky door noise. It's going to be comedy gold. And then paid actors, professionals, grown men, a living beetle, as you said. They don't simply refuse to do it, because even I, at a year old in 1981, would know this isn't a good idea. There's nothing funny about this movie. And you told me before about Swedish TV showing nudity as much as American TV shows violence. So maybe they could have gone that route, either make it more for kids or more for adults. We've seen on screen attempted rape, tons of cleavage, ass cheeks of all sexes. All that is okay, which has really got me thinking about what's allowed on screen and what isn't. But after Tala and Gog and Lar and Atouk plunge into some tar and they need to wash off, they go to this waterfall and I go, oh shit, we're going to see some caveman titties, right? They're naked. All the guys are rinsing off. Even Gog is like an old man, is washing himself off. Shelley Long, is she naked? Nope. She's sitting on a rock. She's splashing. Where are my Shat the Movie's surprise boobs? Why isn't this movie filled with boobs washing, boobs nursing children, boobs hunting pterodactyl eggs? This should be a titty flick.
I totally agree. This should be like Game of Thrones, where the Unsullied are bathing in that river. And we see Grey Worm is looking over at Missandei and his breasts are out heaving. But Gene, this is more Benny Hills. This is like 80s running around and the girls with the big boobs like bouncing. It should have been more National Geographics. But again, that would have made them pick a direction. And I don't know if they could have done that, because on top of what you said about the cleavage, about the asses, you get an old man groping two women. Then you also get a lineup where he's going to pick the new mate and he's looking down he's pulling out their panties and he's checking them out. And yeah, this movie, don't go half measure, people. We always say that. Go full measure.
So Ash isn't here. It's boys' night at Shat the Movies in the Shat Shack. Which one of the cave women do you go for?
Oh, Lana, there's no choice.
Are you shitting me?
100%. I don't want Shelley Long. She's fine. Trust me. The human species will survive with only Shelley Longs. But Lana, she is. You got to keep her.
Wait, I'm saying all of them though. The whole tribe.
There was a couple brunettes in there that I thought were breedable.
Yeah, the one with the Chewbacca panties.
Yes. I would have bred with. What about the girl who feels like she's too unattractive and pulls her shirt over her head? so Tonda can just look at her body. I was like, man, she's not that bad. But again, she's got to do what she's got to do.
I had a couple friends like that in college, and they were really great people.
Yeah, she tried. That's how the other cave people describe her. Like that, she's really nice. She's really funny.
Great gal,
really funny.
Terrific personality. The group has ongoing encounters with hungry dinosaurs and rescues Lar from a nearby ice age where they encounter an abominable snowman.
So Kelly B mentioned it, the claymation for people out there. If you've not seen this movie in a while, or ever, because it was 81, it is wild. We get some dinosaurs, and I use that term dinosaurs lightly. They're laughable. They don't look like dinosaurs. The first one looks like a chameleon. A chameleon with some spikes on his back and some googly eyes. You have an obese T-Rex, and I was like, was this like a lack of ability to create? But then I thought back to Land of the Lost, the iconic 80s TV show where the family goes back in time, and there's slee stacks, and there's a dinosaur. And they all kind of look this way. So I was like, have movies progressed that far? Because today we're used to, whether it's a movie about the military, you have experts on the set who will advise you the proper techniques, the way things moved. They will answer any of the actors or the crew's questions. They're there to make it as accurate as possible. And I just kept thinking, if we had a 1981 Jurassic Park with this crew, what we would have come up with, because it would have been wildly incorrect and epic.
Okay, first of all, the T-Rex, did you want like a live T-Rex, like a lean Dennis Quaid kind of T-Rex? I'm pretty sure they looked kind of like that.
No, this T-Rex, I'm telling you, that group of early human ancestors, they're on the move constantly. You could have outpaced him with a light jog. There's no way that T-Rex was catching you. That T-Rex got fat eating something big. You could have escaped. Something fierce, more blood, more teeth, or more of them.
It's going to take beer 3.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Okay. The dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are my favorite part of the movie. They were supposed to be funny. I don't know if you caught that part, slapstick comedy.
I did. And
their faces, they elicited a sort of compassion, I think. Like, when that T-Rex fell off the side of the mountain, I was worried for him. He like waved his arms around. He's like, oh. And then he fell. I was relieved to find out that he only fell about 100 feet, which apparently isn't fatal for a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
No, again, I would have bet my life in my false flashbacks, my false memories, because I remembered the pterodactyl egg being cooked in that volcanic hot,
looked delicious
cauldron of bubbling ooze or whatever it was. But then I thought when he fell, there's a noise that sounds like he was dead. And I pictured them in my head. I saw the scene of Atouk and his crew barbecuing large pieces of dinosaur bones. Jesus. But instead, we get goofy T-Rex sitting on his back, googly eyes, stoned.
I loved it. The claymation was the strongest part of this movie. It might even be the key to saving this movie, because believe it or not, this movie could have been rescued. Somebody could have stopped it. Ringo had the power, okay? Atouk looked his best when he was a claymation dinosaur rider. When they took Ringo out of the movie and just made a figure of Ringo, he looked great. The entire movie looked better as claymation. So here's my pitch. Go back in time, 1980, get me in front of these Hollywood producers, and I say, okay, we take claymation, no actors. You add a Beatles soundtrack, because you got Ringo in, right? He just does the voice of Atouk. You get a Beatles soundtrack instead of that weird orchestral score. You pump in some of that New Orleans brass band vibe from the Caveman anthem, which is like very catchy, oddly. And you've got a winner. Just make this a claymation musical. It patches over the rough patches of not having dialogue. It keeps the pace going, keeps it jaunty, fun. It picks a direction, makes it more kid-friendly. That's the movie that should have been made.
But Gene, a lot of times when they do claymation of like humans, they will make it quick, like these quick cutaways so you can't notice, interlaced with like pictures of Ringo riding like some prop. They go balls to the wall. We see a 15, 20-second scene of claymation chameleon hopping around with claymation Ringo, which looks really bad, but they just go with it. But there's no way you can gloss over the fact that this movie, it's supposed to be funny and goofy. We get to this Ice Age part with the lonely Wampa, the prehistoric Sasquatch who's got, again, his ass out. It's fucking stupid. We didn't need it. The movie's already feeling long at like an hour and 40 minutes. We know we got to get Atouk and his band of guys out of the cave so that Tala can go sabotage again Atouk, because, she, for her own selfish reasons, because she does not want to have any female rival in the group. Somehow they are miraculously like teleported through some unexplained nearby ice age that you just go through like a teleporting ice slide and water pool. It made no sense. It was a giant waste of time. You could have easily gotten there by just Atouk in the group going out on a hunt.
They seem to have confused chronology with geography in this movie, because when the screen says in a nearby ice age, I thought the idea was Lar goes down this river, he's frozen in this plunge, and then he emerges from this warm pool centuries later and finds himself isolated. I thought that was the end of his story. Like, wouldn't it be funny if Lar just woke up hundreds of years later and didn't know what had happened? But no, he's actually just over like a mountain ridge somewhere, and they got to go get him. And then, yeah, there's this ice monster.
What do you think this was, Encino Man? Like we were going to wake up and they were all frozen and they were going to come out?
Yeah.
No, you're right. It's some wormhole. It's much like what got in Land of the Lost. The whole family sucked into. It was a waterfall that somehow teleported them back in time here. I don't know if it's the worst part or the best part was the fact of how lonely this prehistoric Wampa was. He wasn't out there to kill him. He just wanted friends, Gene. He just wanted to, everybody left.
In the course of these adventures, they discover sedative drugs and fire, invent cooking, music, and weapons, and learn how to walk fully upright. And if these plot descriptions, by the way, sound really short, it's because there's not a lot of meat to the movie, dear listener.
That's right.
So now that I'm on beer 4, I want to talk about Jane Goodall. The anthropologist and primatologist. So Big D, I think it was Jane Goodall that said the surest sign of evolution in humanity was the discovery that ancient people took care of their sick and crippled. And by the way, folks, if it sounds like I copied and pasted that off of somewhere, I didn't. That's what Gene Lyons' inner monologue sounds like. And I'm sure that's the case. I'm sure that that is the surest sign of evolution and humanity. But you got to consider some guys a liability in caveman times. So there's this character, Gog. He's hanging out with Tala. He's older. He's slower. He's visually impaired. He can't fight. Maybe give Gog something productive to do. Because in this movie, all he does is walks into tar pits, falls off of things. He grabs women's boobs, as Big D mentioned. He just gets himself into predicaments, and he's not contributing to the tribe in any way. And again, I'm not saying you have to contribute and be productive to be a worthwhile human being. What I'm saying is this is 1 zillion BC.
Yeah. I'm really nobody to question Jane Goodall or what she thinks, but you take care of your sick and crippled when you can. You don't do it at the cost of protecting every subsequent generation. Lar, sorry, buddy, you got your twisted leg with your door hinge sound. You're not going to be able to keep up with the group. We got to leave you behind. Gog, you clumsy old bastard, you're going to get groups of able-bodied men and women and children killed because you're swinging a damn weapon around in a melee weapon in a fight, and you're hitting friendlies. You got to cut your losses, people. You got to get rid of them. And the whole movie, it's based on the premise, okay, let's get the Beetle Ringo out there. He is going to be the Renaissance caveman, and we're going to have him make every single big new step forward, every leap in evolutionary chain that we've taken up the ladder to where we are today, whether or not we're going up or down or wherever you think we are at this point. But he invents the wheel. He's also at the same time cave painting. He learns how to cook food over an open fire, how to harness fire as a weapon, how to make bladed weapons, slingshots. He's intelligently, even though I said he was secretly squirreling away the tribe's food, he did understand the importance of saving for a rainy day, that when you harvest, you save for the time when it's not out there. And he is the crucial link to humankind. Every primitive ancestor who stands up, it is because it is Ringo, it is Atouk. And he even steals the glory from our friendly Asian Nook, who was the Asian caveman, who obviously is the most advanced caveman in the world. He speaks perfect English. Ringo dismisses him. I think the only saving grace of this whole part where Ringo is making these discoveries is they have a bootleg version of the 2001 Space Odyssey theme, the da, 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 da. It's so close, but so far away that you could tell the movie didn't have the budget, and immediately made me like it a little bit more.
This had to be the single biggest day of scientific advancement in all of mankind's evolution. Like they got it
This
all
past single day.
in one day. And Nook, he's actually the second Asian caveman. I believe Nuta was also Asian, or at least Asian looking. He could have been like, I've got some Mexican friends who look somewhat.
He was like island, maybe like Polynesian. He looked like he was something. He was something from over there.
Hey Veda, how's it going out there? Anyway, did you see him smother the fire before leaving Tonda's cave? Nook is fucking sadistic. Everyone else is like leaving, like, all right, we got everything we needed. We got food, we got the bait. Let's get out of here. And he's like, no. Fuck these guys.
Yeah, again, a smart strategic move. That's why he's showing his intelligence. You have to sabotage the other group, give your group and your genetics a chance to go on. But I was half expecting at this point for Atouk to build a Flintstone car, to build something prehistoric where the whole group gets in. So you see their feet, their hairy feet pedaling in the dirt as they rip away with all of the supplies from Tonda's cave. Yeah, it's Caveman, folks, 1981.
Atouk uses his discoveries to lead an attack on Tonda, overthrowing him and becoming the tribe's new leader. He rejects Lana and takes Tala as his mate, and they live happily ever after. So in this part of the movie, while the guys are off in the nearby ice age looking for Lar, Tonda's crew raids the misfit camp. They kidnap all the women, presumably to rape them. And I wonder, yet again, on Shat the Movies, why do men in movies always take forever to prep when the women are in danger? Atouk, Lar, Gog, the whole crew, do they race to the rescue when they find out the women have been kidnapped? No. They do a whole fucking music montage. It lasts so long that during the period of this second renaissance of the Atouk era, they discover melee weapons, projectiles, armor, catapults, fucking chemical warfare. I'm surprised they didn't show up and find everyone either raped, dead, or both.
Well, is this the misfit camp, Gene, or is it the Benetton camp? Which way do you want to describe it?
The first camp was the Benetton camp. This is more like the World Cup at this point. Just all the fucking countries have shown up.
So Gene, I totally agree. This group of misfits is more interested in having fun, playing music, and learning to ride a lizard and just goofing off than they are about ensuring the survival of their genetic code. This group should be focused on the primary feed yourself security, and then also find a way to procreate, to push your genes forward into the next generation. This group isn't thinking about that. They're not. The animals do it. Cavemen do it. The alpha male has to go find the most, voluptuous, the most fertile female mate, and that is Lana. There is no way Tala should have ever been chosen. Atouk is proving that he is not the alpha male, not the leader to make the hard choices. You're not looking for a girlfriend, Atouk. You're looking for a mate, and that is Lana.
This isn't a Disney princess movie. He shouldn't be choosing at all. Atouk should be getting everybody pregnant, even the fucking pet dinosaur. Let's see if we can do a hybrid, right? What about intelligence, Big D? What about loyalty? Do those mean nothing to you? Aren't those characteristics that make a good mother? Tala, she's smart. She's loyal. She seems to be a little more intelligent.
She has narrow hips.
She does have narrow hips.
There's a good chance that she's going to die during childbirth.
Yeah.
But again, you're correct. Your move is he should be having sex with all of them.
Yeah, all of them.
That way he's ensured at least, some of his offspring will survive. Plus, it would make the movie so much more entertaining. Like Caligula orgies, or like Conan with everybody just slithering together. I'm going away from the G movie. Let's make this hardcore R. And I think we got some. Mix in your music, your jazz.
Your claymation.
Yeah, claymation. This would be great.
I want to inject a bit of science into this too, though. Lana hasn't produced a single heir for Tonda. What makes you think she's so fertile?
But again, you sexist pig. Why are you assuming that it's Lana's fault? Maybe it's Tonda. Maybe all this prehistoric steroids have shrunk his balls. Maybe he's out there. Yeah, maybe he's the problem. Maybe Lana's going to just start shooting out kids left and right with Atouk.
Well, now's the time of the podcast where I get down to my fifth beer and we give our wipe scores.
Yeah.
This 5's for you, Kelly.
Woo.
Zero Wipes is an absolutely perfect movie. It is going from mankind's first simp to becoming the prehistoric equivalent of Elon Musk. And 5 Wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It is doo-doo caca shit. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Caveman?
So, Kelly, you mentioned that RoboJocks and the podcast review of that was kind of the initial seed that got this commission submitted. Robot Jocks, they were trying to make an actual science fiction quality film. They made every effort, even though the budget wasn't there, to make this a legitimate sci-fi classic. Here, they seem to be half-assing it. It's a romantic comedy, but it wasn't that funny. You know, they're trying hard, and the concept, I think, is good. You get Beetle, Ringo, get him out there, caveman, haha, funny. He's got his misfit tribe. They're going to go around, meet other interesting cave people. They're going to have discoveries along the way. He's going to want to get the girl back. There's going to be a love triangle, but it falls flat. It doesn't hit the marks of what it needed to do to be something that was comedy. You can't live on just physical comedy, falling down, twisting legs, and the sound effects from a Looney Tunes episode. So for me, I thought it was a disappointment, even though going back, I had some more laughs here with Gene than I did watching the movie, but I appreciate you listening and commissioning. For me, it is a 4-wipe, doo-doo, caca, face plant and shit.
So Caveman is proof that when you remove language from a comedy, you tie one hand behind your back. Films inherently have a script and they have visual elements, and the two need to go together to give you the full dose of comedy. You take one away, you've got a tough mountain to climb. This movie didn't quite climb that mountain. And Roger Roper famously said during The Princess Bride that he noticed painted backdrops and that hurt the movie. This movie also had the painted backdrops, but none of the whimsy of The Princess Bride, hurting it even further. Like you said, Big D, choosing Ringo as the star was an absolute mistake because it was stronger when he wasn't there. When you forgot Ringo Starr was in this movie, it actually worked well. I think Dennis Quaid was decent. John Matuszak, decent. Shelley Long, decent. The rest of the movie kind of fell apart. I am that man looking over the cliff at a fried pterodactyl egg. It's 4 wipes for me as well. So, Kelly, that's 4 wipes unanimous from me and Big D for Caveman.
So, Gene, it's easy with a clean 4 wipes. That now ties us in the 262 spot with Real Genius, Arachnophobia, Gleaming the Cube, The Crow, and Inner Space. Another Dennis Quaid film. Slightly better than The Seventh Sign, Independence Day, and Time Cop. Slightly worse than Defend Your Life, A Christmas Story, and Goldeneye.
God, were we too kind?
It might be because, I
would rather watch any of those movies.
I would rather watch Gleaming the Cube. I would rather watch Arachnophobia. I think 4 might be too kind.
Kelly fucking tricked us because Kelly told me to get drunk first.
Yeah, this is Kelly's fault.
I feel pretty good about this movie right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling like, there was something. I feel like the bones were good, Gene. I'm feeling like if we just remodeled the bathroom, added like an island in the kitchen, we could live in this house. It's not that bad, really.
I think it's the caveman that we made in our heads with the claymation and the sex and everything.
Oh, the orgies, the violence.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we have to get Ash to weigh in on this and balance that score out a little bit. But for now, it's 4 wipes. So, Kelly, thank you so much for commissioning Caveman. We really appreciate it. We have a ton of email to get to this week, so we'll start out with Jeremy B. from Michigan. And Jeremy B. says, "Hi, guys. Love the podcast and have been listening to you guys for about a year and a half. You brought a lot of joy during these rough times. I just finished the First Blood episode and wanted to respond to some questions. Gene asked why military flashlights are shaped the way they were. Like Big D, I was in the Army, and during basic at Fort Benning, we were issued these lights. We were told they were shaped like an upside-down L, so it can be clipped to your web gear, and you can have light while maintaining both hands on your rifle. Later in the episode, Big D asks how Rambo got his knife back. In the scene where he's escaping, he vaults over a desk, and you can see him pick up the knife and stick it in his belt. Why it was not in the evidence room, who knows? Probably doesn't serve the story well. Also, if you hated Troutman in this, you would hate him in the book. Anyway, love you guys. Cannot wait till you get to my commission, Deep Rising, later in the year. Sincerely, Jeremy B. from Michigan."
Okay, so Jeremy B., I noticed exactly what you were saying, but when Rambo is first being checked in, his knife is taken and secured in the weapons locker. It is locked away. We see it on screen. But yet when he's running out, it's sitting on top of the counter, which he vaults like the agile human being he is, picks up and goes. So unless, let's just say, I'm going to do some fanfic here. Rambo's downstairs. He's getting interrogated. He's getting his let's just say police bath. And he upstairs, they're processing his paperwork and they're tagging the weapon. That's possible. He comes up during that time. That's why it's out on the counter. But the flashlight, I don't see anybody who would think it's a good idea to have a platoon or squad of guys with their flashlights on their like web gear, just going left and right and up and down as they're moving. I don't think that's an ideal way to stay tactical.
Well, thank you, Jeremy, for your email. Next, we have one from Omar, also about Rambo. He says, greetings, Shat crew. First, thank you for a stellar Manhunter review. I was working late the night it dropped, and your notes on some of the less inspired turns of the script. It's just you and me now, sport. Didn't you son of a bitch? Had me in much needed stitches. I can't wait for Blue Thunder in a couple of weeks. So when I'm not casing out Big D's house in a stocking mask, I happen to make a living as an attorney. In your First Blood review, Big D asked if any lawyers might opine on the matter of Rambo's legal responsibility for Galt's death. Well, how could I not answer the call? Below, please find my humble analysis of Rambo's culpability or lack thereof. Now, full disclosure, I don't practice criminal law, and other than being sworn in, I've never set foot in a courtroom. But hey, this isn't legal advice, and you get what you pay for. Bullet point number 1. Teasel ordered Galt to stand down and explicitly stated that he wanted Rambo alive. Point 2. Galt ignored Teasel and continued trying to murder an unarmed Rambo. Point 3. Galt's use of force was unauthorized and his actions toward Rambo were illegal. And point 4. At that point, Rambo was justified in using reasonable force to defend himself. One could argue that throwing the rock at the chopper without intent to kill was reasonable force. Now, good luck to Rambo proving that in a court of law. Good thing he has Troutman in his corner. Cheers, Omar.
Yeah, it's like we said, Rambo was in the right. You know, it was risky. I mean, you have to do that movie. You could have killed the helicopter pilot. But then again, the helicopter pilot will corroborate because the helicopter pilot didn't want to be there. He was stating that this was against regulations. So even though, you know, whether or not what would really happen in a court case, we can know that Rambo, for as many people as he's killed, could sleep well that night.
Big D's using we very loosely here because I distinctly recall a certain co-host of mine.
Oh, that was early on. That was before I rewatched it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that was in my memory of Rambo. You know, no. Okay, here's the deal.
You were going to leave that shit out.
You said, what do you mean?
Yes.
Oh, this is in there. You said that Rambo didn't kill anyone.
He didn't.
And I said he led to the person's death, Gene. Whether or not he's legally culpable is not the question. Okay, he led to that man's death. So yes, there's one kill on him, but it was justified. That's the difference. It was a justified kill. It wasn't murder. It was justified. He was protecting himself.
That pilot should have just flown out of there. He had it in his power to save a life. I blame the pilot. Well, thank you, Omar, for your email, and thank you so much for your commissions over the years. I hope you enjoyed Blue Thunder and Manhunter as much as we did. Next up, we have one from Glenn from Florida writing in about Fright Night. He says, greetings, dropping a line to say I just found your podcast yesterday and I enjoy it greatly. All the movies seem to be my picks for sure. I grew up in the 80s, so this is a blast and I have so many podcasts to catch up on. Gene and Dick are the perfect pairing. Dick is the optimist and Gene wants to poke the bear. I think that makes you the bear in this case. Mm-hmm. One suggestion for a show, Fright Night. Love the show. Regards, Glenn from Florida.
Yeah, Fright Night was a good one. I remember being terrified. If I'm correct, it is, goofy teenager next door, like the Burbs. You know, the dark new family moves in, and someone suspects that he is either a vampire, and he goes over to investigate. And surprise, it's not like the Burbs, where it was an innocent, actually, they weren't innocent in the Burbs. They actually were murdering the family who had lived in the house, but they weren't some otherworldly, supernatural force. But in this one, it turns out, I can't tell if he's a vampire or werewolf or lichen. He's some kind of
monster
beast. But, they show him, he's like somebody's getting burned by a cross. So I don't know the mythology here, but he is an otherworldly super creature of the night.
Well, Glenn, we haven't chosen our 2023 Halloween Spooktacular film, so we will put Fright Night in the running, and we'll keep you posted on whether it gets our pick. Next up, we have another suggestion for a horror movie. This one comes from Kevin. And he says, hey, Shat Crew, would you three be willing to review The Return of the Living Dead? It is from the year 1985. It is not the greatest movie in the world, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. It has to be all three of you, Ash, Gene, and Big D. I'll throw down some money to put it to the list. I don't mind waiting until 2024. Thanks for your consideration, Kevin.
So as a fan of zombie films, I love the Walking Dead comics. The show lost me probably about 2 years ago. Excited for The Last of Us, which is HBO coming up. This one I've not seen because the cover art, it looked like it was almost going to be a parody film where there's like punk rockers. So I didn't think it was like a legitimate zombie film. Have you seen this?
I've seen Night of Living Dead, but never Return. Yeah.
Now looking at it, the tagline is, they're back from the grave and ready to party. So I think that's why I never saw it. Kevin, I would 100% be down for a zombie punk rock, party film. I think it'd be great. So follow the steps, man. Put it down and we will do it. I'll make sure all three of us are on it.
Thanks, Kevin, for your email. Next up, we have a request from Jeff who says, I know it's 1978, but I just listened to your Alien podcast, and that's 1979, and I thought you nailed it. Let me know if you'll do the Deer Hunter. I got $100 for you. $100, Jeff. Wow. Thanks. Glad to know we're bringing value to your life.
Well, that's maybe an adjusted inflation. That's for like $1978. Is that what he was saying?
Oh, got it. Yeah.
I don't know what that's adjusted for, but I don't know that the year and how old it is as important as the topic. I mean, that's a dark film. It's just like, let's just say Amistad or Schindler's List. I don't know that I would review either of those because we had the danger. If you go back and listen to our Saving Private Ryan, we almost, and this was edited out, you and I almost hopped over the console and through our Zoom dashboard and beat the shit out of Roger Roper because he was going on about American imperialism and how the World War II was partially our fault. And another movie like that wouldn't be good.
That was at the end of the recording.
Correct.
At the early part of the recording, I was already pissed because I was talking about Normandy. Once I got through those bunkers, I'd be killing every Nazi I saw. And he was like, well, I mean, that's a war crime. They just shot the fuck out of everybody on the beach. Fuck them.
Yeah, but American
no prisoners.
American and British imperialism that, they were just defending themselves and who's the real villain? Oh, that was a hot one. So, Deer Hunter.
Oh, don't you think those guys came back from the war and beat their wives?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, returning. Yeah.
Yes.
The greatest generation. That's what he kept saying.
Yes.
Oh, the greatest generation. Yeah, they didn't come back with all these problems and beating their wives. And yeah, that's why the world is like it is today. I spared you, listeners. I spared all of you who love Roger and think he's lighthearted. That because I knew you would have gotten your tiki torches and you would have marched on Mount Shat.
And before I I do know that not every German soldier in World War II was a Nazi, but they were Nazi adjacent. Jeff, I don't know if we're prepared to do the Deer Hunter yet. We'll take it under consideration, but that might be a little too heavy.
No.
Right.
No, Jeff, thank you. No, we're a light. There's no good that could come from the Deer Hunter.
Yeah, pick another Christopher Walken movie. Next up, we have one from Rachel. She's writing in about Varsity Blues. She says, hello all, respectfully requesting Varsity Blues. As myself being a small town girl, I remember it being very accurate to small town life. And of course, the whipped cream bikini being very sexual and scandalous. But I was a teen then, and now I would love to hear your take on this small town football life movie in 2022. Love the pod. Thank you, Rachel.
100% Rachel. I love this movie. I'm calling dinosaurs, puke and rally. I love this movie. You're also forgetting I think his name was Skeeter. It's James Caan's son, who's like the wide receiver, the whole strip club, the teacher who falls in. Oh my God. I don't want your life. Yes, please. I would fast track this. I would get this. This is such a good movie.
All right, Rachel, get in touch with Big D. Let's get Varsity Blues on the Shat schedule. And finally, we have an email from Elizabeth writing in about Con Air. She says, I think an interesting movie for y'all to review is the 1997 Nicolas Cage movie, Con Air. It was an intense, action-packed movie I loved to watch with my dad. From the first fight scene in the movie to the last, I was hooked on it. The casting was done amazing. By the way, going back quite a bit on the list to your review of A Christmas Story, it is a 10 whip movie to me. My mom and I hate that movie so much. It is now a running joke in our family that every other year or couple of years, we'll give my mom something wrapped in A Christmas Story wrapping paper. I love the pod. I just wish I would have found it sooner. It makes work go by so much faster. With much love from a small town in Texas, Elizabeth.
Before I get to Elizabeth, it was Tweeter, not Skeeter. So I don't get the actuallys, but you guys got the idea. I don't know. What do you think about this one?
Con Air, I really liked when I watched it. I just really want to see Nick Cage's hair in that movie again. You remember that haircut he's got? It's like that mullet type thing going on.
Yeah, I think it's great. You get John Malkovich. You got a young John Cusack.
We haven't done a Nick Cage movie in a while.
No, I think this would be long overdue. And just to watch him, like, his hands are so dangerous. He can kill a man with one punch. And that's why he goes to jail. And he's gonna, this. I mean, I would be shocked if this turned out to be bad. I think this one is so legendary and so iconic. This is up there with The Rock. Yeah, these two have to be great.
Also, Elizabeth, it is now December 28th, and I made it through an entire Christmas season without seeing A Christmas Story. I think it's on its way out, honestly. No one brought it up. People were talking about Elf. People were talking about Scrooged. I even watched Frozen. No one brought up A Christmas Story, and I think it's for the best. So thanks so much for writing in. And thank you to everyone who wrote in. If you'd like to get a hold of us, hosts at shatthemovies.com, or you can go to shatpod.com and leave us a voicemail using the SpeakPipe feature on any device. We'd love to hear your voice.
So, Gene, next week, new father Frank departs for a night out, joined by friends Mike and Ray as they head to a boxing match. At the last minute, they are joined by John, Frank's brother. The guys take a shortcut that gets them lost. In a very dangerous neighborhood, they witness the murder by a gang leader called Fallon. They flee, but Fallon now wants them hunted down and eliminated. Commissioned by Glenn R., released in 1993. I've seen pieces of this film, but I mean, any Emilio Estevez has got to be good Emilio Estevez.
This is the movie that introduced a lot of us to rap rock. So even if it's not good, it holds a place in history.
How does that compare to cock rock?
It's rappier.
Less cocky and more rappy?
More urban.
More urban. Crack open another one, Gene Lyons, and take us out.
Well, thank you, Glenn, for your commission. Thank you, Kelly B, for your commission. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies and my sixth beer. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or commissioning your own movie. Find all that information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all that information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D and Ash, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us on the next episode for the following movie.
Nobody is taking dates. It's a bunch of guys going to a boxing match. That's it. Why are you looking at me like that?
Because I know you're friends. They have the hormones of high school kids.
I'll be home early, okay?
Promise?
What do you say, fight fans?
A night out on the town. A heavy traffic jam.
Tell you something, I'm not going to miss this fight.
And one wrong turn.
We've circled this block about 300 times.
Yeah, enough of this scenic route.
What the hell was that?
He's been shot.
They're coming after me. You gotta get me out of here! Back off!
We can't just sit here, okay?
Come on.
They got guns, John.
You broke rule number 1. Do not steal from me. Oh, boys, rule number 2. No witnesses.
Come on! Oh, let's go!
Where the hell are we?
What are we gonna do?
What do you think of the neighborhood?
The cops are gonna be here any second. The cops are not coming.
What's up? You punks crazy or something, man?
Chill out, man. We're just looking for some citizens.
Don't move. Don't whisper. Don't even breathe.
These guys don't give up.
Oh, Frank, is this your wife, huh?
I get a wife and a little girl, and I will get back to them tonight.
Let's show these punks what we got.
You better believe it.
Dennis Leary.
No, Frank, after I kill you, I think I'm gonna pay a little visit on that wife of yours.
Judgment Night.
You coming?